Am I the asshole for not being physically affectionate with my husband every time he wants? A little background on our marriage. He is a very physically affectionate person. I am not. I'm neurodivergent and have a lot of sensory issues. He's known this the entire time we've known each other. He knows there are certain materials and styles I can't or won't wear. He knows there are a lot of foods that I cannot eat because the consistency grosses me out. He knows that when I'm in pain, I don't like to be touched. I am a chronic pain patient with false joints in each hip, so I'm in pain pretty much all the time. Recently, he presented as type 2 diabetic in about the most spectacular way I've ever seen somebody's body do it. By that, I mean he wasn't feeling well and would not go to the doctor until I went with him, so I left work early to take him to the doctors, even though he's a grown man. The urgent care I took him to immediately sent him into the hospital because of how high his heart rate was. Once at the hospital, it turns out his blood sugar was 1,248. By all medical knowledge, he shouldn't have been awake, let alone talking and walking. He spent nearly 5 days in ICU. Worst 5 days of my life. I've been with this man for 23 years out of the 44 I have been alive. Come to the crux of the problem, he's been home 2 days. 2 days he has not adequately taken charge of his own diet like he needs to. I've been the one counting his carbs and making sure he gets the right portions. I go back to work in 3 days. I'm sick with worry that he's not going to control himself when I'm not around. I've been the one that has dealt with 2 of the 3 vehicles. We took a lot of crap while he was in the hospital. I've been the one getting all of his medicine ready and picked up. I've been the one doing everything. This morning he starts to fight because I haven't laid down with him when he wanted me for the last 2 days. The reason I haven't is because I have stuff to continue to do past 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and if I lay down for him to hold me, I'm not going to get back up, and those things aren't going to get done. They're things like making sure he has bacon cooked for his breakfast the next morning, or that I've portioned out the cereal he's going to eat, or laundry. I understand that, because of the scare he got, he is going to be more physically affectionate. The problem is, he expects me to change my entire personality in order to accommodate him and his wishes. This seems to be a recurring theme in our marriage that we've had numerous fights over, and that he tries to make an effort to recognize and stop himself. I work 30 hours a week on top of all the cooking, all the grocery shopping, all the financial management of the household on top of ensuring the only child we still have at home, who is 12, does his online school as well as all pet care. His sudden illness hasn't changed any of that. I still have all of that on top of dealing with his health issues now. Am I the asshole for being so stressed out and worried that the last of my priorities is physical affection? Next story. It was my female 40th birthday a few days ago, and we had a reservation for a table at a nice restaurant for 7 o'clock at night. It takes about 20 minutes to drive to the restaurant, so I planned to leave the house at 6:30 to build in time for traffic and picking up my father. My husband, 43 male, had decided to do a bit of work on his car about half an hour before we needed to leave. At 6:30, when the kids and I were waiting by the door, he was still doing it. He hadn't changed and hadn't showered. I told him to quickly get ready, but it got to 6:50, and he still wasn't ready yet, so I decided to just leave without him. He has a habit of always running late when we go out, and he is always the last one to be ready. Normally, I can tolerate it since it only sets things back by 10 minutes at the most. But my birthday dinner was important to me, and I had been looking forward to it for weeks. Making us wait for 20 minutes was taking the mick, so I yelled out that we were leaving and left, because I didn't want to lose the table, since we would have arrived at about 7:20. I called the restaurant to let them know we would be late, and we luckily still had our table. But my husband didn't show up at the restaurant, and when we got home, he was mad at me. I told him that I was tired of him not respecting my time and always making people wait for him, and that he could have made his own way to the restaurant. My father agreed with my decision to leave without him, but my kids were a little upset that he wasn't there to have dinner with us. Am I the asshole? Next story. Hi, I'm 54. I married my husband when he was 41 and I was 38. He had a 12-year-old daughter who I got along with well, but we were never very close because she visited her mom often. I'll call her Tina. When Tina was 16, my husband passed away suddenly. She could have gone and lived with her mom, but her mom lives a few hours away, and she would have had to switch schools in her junior year, so she decided to just stay at home with me. We did become closer then, as we had to get through this together, but she still didn't think of me as a mom, which I totally understand. Tina was planning to go to medical school, but she got pregnant in her senior year. She wasn't even dating the guy. As far as I know, she got drunk and it happened. She pushed through and graduated on time though. But then once her son was born, she asked me if I would take care of him so she could go to medical school. I didn't even think it a burden, because when I was younger, I couldn't have a child of my own, and I was happy to have the chance to raise one. So she moved states and went to college, and first I was calling her weekly to tell her what was going on with her child. But she never called, and slowly I stopped calling. She never called on her own, or seemed to show any interest. When I told her, she just listened politely. But I got the sense that she was just moving on in life and not really thinking about her son. I still called her every few months for the first few years, but then that faded too. Now her son is 9. She just finished the 8 years of med school. I think of her son as mine, and he calls me Grandma, even though we're not biologically related. About his real parents, I told him that everyone has 2 sets of parents. The ones that created the baby he was, and the ones that helped create the adult he would be. I said that for some people, these were the same, and for some people, they weren't. I didn't want to straight up tell him his mom didn't care, but I also didn't want to lie. He accepted this, even though the lack of real parents obviously had an impact. Recently, Tina reached out saying she wants to get to know her son. She came to visit and stayed for a few days. It was so incredibly awkward. I told my son she would be coming, and when she came, she asked him if he knew who she was. He said, "Yes, you gave birth to me, but you're not my real mom." Then he basically ignored her the whole time. She was really angry with me and accused me of turning him against her, and I don't know if I should have done something differently. Am I the asshole?